Please, everyone get a seat. I'm going to be mouthing off for a while, and you'll get tired if you're standing. There are plenty of seats here. The topic that I had agreed to talk about was anarchism, but Jim just said that we're newcomers here, so I want to be sympathetic to that. Let me take a survey. How many people here consider themselves libertarians?
Yay.
That's pretty much everyone. Second question, the way I see libertarianism, there are really four levels of libertarianism. At the top, the most consistent, the most radical, are the anarcho-capitalists, namely libertarians who believe in the non-aggression principle and private property rights. And the implication of them is that there cannot be a government because government initiates violence against people, namely it taxes them, and they haven't agreed to be paid taxes. They haven't agreed to pay taxes. And anyone who comes to you with a gun and says, give us money for good purposes, and you didn't agree to it, well, they violate the non-aggression principle. Therefore, any other libertarianism beside anarcho-capitalism is not as fully consistent with the non-aggression principle as anarcho-capitalism. The second level, coming down a bit, and the person most associated with that would be Murray Rothbard. Second, and I'm going to ask for a survey of who agrees with which of these four. The second one would be minarchism, or minimal government libertarianism, and the person most associated with that would be Ayn Rand and Robert Nozick. And their view is, yes, we should have a government, but it should be extremely limited, and its sole purpose should be to promote liberty and protect people against foreign aggression. You need armies to protect people against foreign aggression. Not to go out and export democracy and make everyone safe for everything, but to just protect us from them. And then you need local police to protect us from criminals, murderers, rapists, people like that. And third, you need courts, because people have commercial disagreements. I say I delivered 100 cows to you. You say you only got 95 and 10 of them were sick, and now we're having a dispute as to how much, who should pay what. And you need a court to decide that. And that would be minarchism. And that's the second level lower. The third level is associated with Ron Paul. Not that I think Ron Paul is below anyone. I revere Ron Paul. I think he's magnificent. But his view is the U.S. Constitution. Whatever the U.S. Constitution says, not interpreted by the present Supreme Court, but interpreted by libertarians, that's what we should have. And the U.S. Constitution is pretty good, yes? Armies, courts, and police, and maybe post roads and post offices, and that's about it.
No army, only a navy.
Well, so that would be the third level down. And the fourth level would be associated with, I call it classical liberals, and the people that we would most associate that with would be Milton Friedman and Friedrich Hayek. And they're, yes, they favor free enterprise, but they have a lot of compromises. Yeah, we should have a little welfare and a little of this and a little of that, and maybe socialized medicine and certainly government roads. And on the other hand, Milton Friedman was really good on free trade and minimum wage and unions and many, many things, as was Hayek. But they compromised more. Okay, so now I'm going to take a survey of how many libertarians are anarcho-capitalists, how many are minarchists, how many are constitutionalists, and how many are classical liberals. So please raise your hand if you're an anarcho-capitalist. Okay, that's about 3/4 of you. How many are minarchists of the Ayn Rand sort? About 5, 6, 7. How many people are...
Between the first and the second.
Sorry?
I don't believe the police will protect anybody.
Well, you know,
They're supplementary.
this is a multiple choice question. And I agree that there are gray areas between, and you might fit in 2A or 3B or something. But let's just, as a rough approximation, so we had maybe 3/4 of the people anarcho-capitalists, and about 6 or 7 who were minarchists, who believe the Ayn Rand or Robert Nozick view of limited government, very, very limited. Now the third one, U.S. Constitution. We have 1 person, 2 people, 3, 4 shy
That's
people.
the other half of me.
You're afraid to raise your hand high because
Well, because I already voted.
no voting twice. It's Chicago. And how many people are classical liberals of the Milton Friedman, Friedrich Hayek variety? Two people who are very shy about raising their hand. Okay, now another question so that I can figure out how to pitch things is, how many people are newcomers and how many people are old-timers? Old-timers, 2 years or more, newcomers, 2 years or less. How many are old-timers in the libertarian movement? How many are the newcomers? Oh, just about 5, 6 people. Okay, well, we're happy to have newcomers. We need new blood.
And donations.
Okay, well, the talk I want to give is on anarchism. And people might say, well, why do that? Why have a discussion on anarchism? Shouldn't we just, try to promote liberty? And anarchism has a bad press. Most people think, you're an anarchist, you favor bomb throwing or chaos or things like that. There was this thing called the Dallas Accord. Anyone hear of the Dallas Accord? Just 1, 2 people? What the Dallas Accord was an agreement on the part of the Libertarian Party, because the anarchists and the non-anarchists were having fights as to who was right. And the agreement was, look, let's not fight now. Let's reduce the government by 90%. Let's have 10% of the government that we now have, and then we'll fight. Meanwhile, we're a Libertarian Party. Let's not go out crazy and promote anarchism, but let's have a sort of an agreement, the Dallas Accord, where we agree that first we'll reduce the government by 90% of what it now is, down to minarchist or constitutional levels, and maybe even down to classical liberal levels, depending upon how you weigh it, and then we'll fight. And I think that's good. That's a good way to go. And if I were running for the LP, I'm an anarchist, but I wouldn't push anarchism. If someone asked me about it and I wanted to hide, I would say, well, look, this is a contentious issue on the part of the LP, and I'm now representing the LP. And see me afterward and I'll give you my views, but the LP's view is minarchism or constitutionalism or classical liberalism or something like that. That would be my advice. If somebody asks, well, what about open borders? Or what about abortion? In an abortion, you have 2 highly credentialed libertarians that are 180 degrees apart. You have Murray Rothbard, who is pro-choice. You have Ron Paul, who is pro-life. And you can't get 2 more highly credentialed libertarians than those 2. And yet they're this far apart. So what I would say if I were running for the LP, and I said, what's the LP's position on abortion? I would say, look, just as the general public is divided on this, so is the LP, and the same for open borders. There are highly credentialed libertarians on both sides of that issue. And if you want my view, see me afterward and I'll tell you my view, but as a LP representative or a member of the libertarian movement trying to convince newcomers of what's going on, I would just say libertarians are divided on that. We have no view on that because we're very divided. And I think that's true. Let me just take a survey on that. I'll give you the pro-life and pro-choice. And you have to pick one or the other. How many people are pro-life? 3 or 4. How many are pro-choice? The overwhelming majority. Okay. How many are open borders?
Sort of.
About 5, 6, 7. How many are not open borders? Then we should have some regulation. There we're very equal. But on these other issues, we're divided. And I think this group is much more in the anarchist camp than most libertarians. I would say of the 4 groups that I mentioned, and this is just my rough estimate, I've been in the movement a long time, so I sort of have my feet on the ground here. And I would say that the anarchists are 5%, whereas here the anarchists were 90%. The anarchists are 5%, the minarchists are 20%, the constitutionalists 20%, and the classical liberals are 45%. Most people are Hayek, Friedman, rather than any of the others. Okay, so with that introduction, well, let me just do one more part of the introduction. Why then do I want to talk about this? Given that we have the Dallas Accord, well, just for the fun of it. Because we're all philosophically interested in it. And what I want to do now is make the case for anarcho-capitalism, because I think it's the purest version of it. And we're all among ourselves now. We're not talking to the New York Times or somebody like that. So it's just us folk, us chickens here, and we might as well discuss it. Okay, so what is the case for anarcho-capitalism? First of all, the word anarchist. AN, the prefix AN is against. Anabaptist is against Baptist. Anarchy is against archy. So what's archy? Well, archy is unjustified rule of one person over another. So we are anarchists. We're against archy. We're against people ordering other people around, innocent people, telling them, you got to do this, you can't do that, you must do this, you can't do that. Our view is, everyone leave them alone. The only thing you can't do is violate the non-aggression principle. And half the non-aggression principle is private property rights. Because if I grab your sweater, am I a criminal? Or rather, I should have said, if I grab the sweater you're now wearing, am I a criminal? Well, it depends upon who's the rightful owner of the sweater. If she stole it from me yesterday and now I'm just repossessing it, I hope you don't mind me using you as an example. You're here, so handy. If she stole it from me yesterday and now I'm repossessing it, she's the bad guy. On the other hand, I never saw that before. It's a lovely sweater. It's hers, and if I take it, I'm violating rights. But the point is, you have to have a theory of property rights too. You just can't say no, non-aggression, because is this aggression or not when I grab the sweater she's wearing? Well, it depends on who the owner is, and we have a theory of ownership. It's based on the Lockean, Rothbardian, Hoppian theory of homesteading. You mix your labor, you own yourself because you sort of homesteaded yourself. I have grandchildren who are now 2 years old. They're sort of homesteading themselves. They're figuring out the difference between themselves and other things. And as they grow older, they learn the word no and mine and stuff like that, and they're sort of homesteading themselves. Well, I'm a farmer. I mix my labor with this land over here, and I grow a crop or two, and I'm the owner of it. And I grew some corn there, and you domesticated a cow, and now we trade, and I get the milk, and you get some corn. And I get the milk even though I never produced it, but I can trace it back to homesteading and a voluntary interaction. And you get the corn even though you didn't produce it, but you too can trace it back to a voluntary trade and homesteading. So that's sort of the libertarian view. And why is archy or anarchy justified? Because, as I mentioned, taxation. We never agreed to be taxed. Let me talk a little bit about the difference between a condominium association and a government. I now live in a condo association, and I lived in one when I was in Vancouver, and they have all sorts of weird rules. You have to paint your house this color. You can't paint it any other color than this color. The garbage has to be over here. It has to be on Tuesday morning. And very intrusive. Even your draperies have to be a certain color. Everyone's draperies have to, draperies? That's pretty intrusive. It's totalitarian. But yet you agreed to it. So stop moaning and stop saying it's governmental. It's not governmental. What's governmental is murder and rape and theft. That's governmental because the government is the sine qua non, or the essence of invasion. And the rapist is acting governmentally because what the government is in essence is invasion of innocent people, and that's what the rapist and the murderer and the person who engages in assault and battery does. So the first argument against government is that they tax you. Now, people say, well, if you don't like it here, leave. But that's a circular argument. That assumes that they're right. We can say, we anarchists can say, why should we leave? You leave. So, they're sort of assuming that they have a right to stay there and to rule us. No, they don't have that right. It's a circular argument to say, if you don't like it here, leave. Okay, the second argument, I've got a list here. Let me peruse that for a second.
Also, do you want questions at the end?
Yeah, question at the end. The second one is world government. If you favor government, you must favor world government. Because the argument for government is, what's your name?
Clayton.
Clayton. Clayton and I might get into a fight. And we need a government to stop us, to make us behave. And who knows whose fault it is. And you're the government. And you tell me and Clayton to shape up and behave. Well, if Clayton and I need a government to make sure we behave, well, doesn't Canada and Chile need a government to make sure they behave?